Don. This is my brother Dave. I want to thank you for watching the DIY Daddy channel. Today we're going to show you how to build a workbench, a very, very sturdy workbench for less than $100. Total time to put together, about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours tops. And it's a great utility bench for doing just about anything. Alright, so one of the things that is really helpful when you're going to build a bench like this, or when you have any building project, it's good to put down on paper what you're looking to build. It helps give you an idea of what materials you're going to need. It can help you figure out size, how it's going to fit in your workspace. So with this workbench that I designed, with this drawing I was able to figure out how many 2x4s I was going to need, how much plywood, and you can figure out all the other odds and ends you're going to need. Alright, so the first part that we have to do is the legs. What we're going to do is we're going to be cutting 2 different pieces of 2x4, and we're going to put 2 of them together to make a 4x4, so the workbench will be more sturdy. Each leg is going to have one piece that's 36 inches long, and one piece that is 32.5 inches long. And I'll explain that joint to you later when we get there. So first you want to make sure that I'm in. Alright, so first what you want to do is make sure you measure twice, so you only cut once. So you have 36 inches. Alright, so normally you'd use a carpenter square to make sure you have some nice straight lines here. Unfortunately, all of my tools are still kind of packed and stored away from a recent move. So we're just going to use a drywall square. Should get the job done just as well. Alright, so make sure you set the depth of your skill saw at 1.5 inches, 2 inches, so that you can cut clear through. Alright, so one of the advantages of using 2x4x8 spruce to cut these 36-inch legs is that when you're done, you'll have a 2-foot section left over from each piece, which is the perfect measurement for the supports that are going to go inside the frame of the workbench, so nothing gets wasted. Okay, so when you're done cutting for the legs, you should have 4 pieces that are 36 inches long and 4 pieces that are 32.5 inches long. So when they're together, they'll look like this. Now the reason you want that is because normally people will just screw the frame of the top part to the side, and that puts all the weight of the workbench on the screws. This way you put the weight of the frame onto the 2x4, so it makes it more stable. So what you want to do at this point is you want to make sure that the bottoms are flush, and you want to glue it and screw it. So you're going to put a bead of glue running up the inside, and then use some screws, 3-inch screws, to attach them all together. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to put some glue going up, glue going down. This is going to help make the leg much more sturdy. Flip it over. Get it centered on there. Alright, so when you're done, the end of the 2x4, the end of the leg, should look like that. It should have a notch in it, while the other end is flat. So you have 36-inch piece and 32.5-inch piece. Make sure you have your screws in there, and it's glued together as well. You're going to want to do that to all 4 legs. The last step in making the legs, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a notch on this piece, the 36-inch piece, that is the same width as the 2x4. So it's going to be, the exact measurement is going to be 1.5 inches. So we're going to take out 1.5 inches in, going all the way up. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to set your blade depth in your saw to 1.5 inches, alright? And then you're going to make a cut going right across. You know it's going to be 1.5 inches because it's measured on this. And then you're going to make several slices going up here. And then once we're done that, we're just going to chisel off the pieces. And you also want to make sure that the broad side of the plate over here is on this part of the 2x4. That way you'll have more, it'll be more stable. We have all of those cuts, which we know are at 1.5 inches. What we're going to do is we're going to take our chisel and we're just going to clean it up a little bit so it's a nice even cut. Okay, so the next part that we need to do is the frame for the top of the workbench. I want this workbench to be 8 by 2, so the sides have to be 2 feet. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you take in consideration the width of the 2x4. Since this is going to be in between that and the next piece over here, you're going to want to consider that these are 1.5 inches wide, so you're going to want to take off a total of 3 inches. So instead of cutting 2 feet, you're going to want to cut 21 inches. And then use that on the inside, and you should be all set. We have our 21-inch pieces cut. What we're going to do is, just like you did with the legs, we're going to glue it and screw it right on the inside of each of the 8-foot lengths of 2x4. Okay, so now that I have my 3 support pieces for the middle cut, each one's 21 inches long, what you want to do is take the length of the 2x4x8, which is 8 feet, and divide it up into 4. So you're going to put 1 support every 24 inches. And again, you're going to glue them and screw them. And because they're cut to length, you might have to hammer them into place just a little bit, which is perfectly fine. Alright, so the next step that we have is we're going to put the legs on. Now if you remember, I had 2 pieces of 2x4 put together, and one piece was 36 inches, one piece was 32.5, and then on the 36-inch piece I cut out this piece right there. The reason I did that is so that this will fit right in the corner perfectly, so that all the weight from the top is on wood, not on screws. Makes it much more sturdy. Alright, so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to drill 2 holes here and put 2 5-inch carriage bolts, and we're going to make sure that we screw it here and on this side as well.
Is it supposed to go all the way through?
Yeah. Alright, so we've finished putting the legs on. So as you can see, you've got each leg's going to have those 2 carriage bolts on the side that are, get a better angle here. You're going to have the screws with the carriage bolts with the nuts and the washers holding that in. So this is going to be really, really sturdy. Okay, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to frame off the shelf that goes underneath. What you want to do is measure the distance between the inside of this leg and the inside of that leg, which in this case is 89.25 inches. And then you want to get pieces of 2x4 to go this way to support it. Okay, so I've framed out the shelf.
Not sure good.
So what we're doing is we're flipping the table upside down right now, workbench, and we're going to measure down on each leg how far I want the shelf off the ground. I'm thinking it's going to be about 6 inches off the ground. So we're going to measure 6 inches down and mark on each leg. Okay, so now that we've measured 6 inches down on each leg, what we're going to do now is we're going to put screws in on the inner side of the frame. Over here, here, and same on the other side, so that when we put it in, it'll be easier to screw in. We'll have those screws already started.
I said something once.
Alright, so what we've done here is we've attached the frame for the bottom shelf to the frame of the whole bench. I only put one support in there because I'm not going to have a whole bunch of heavy stuff on it. And I'm not going to be doing a lot of work on there. That's going to be all done on the top. That's why I have more supports on the top piece. So now all that's left to do is to take our plywood and cut it out into 2 feet. Actually, we're just going to cut it right in half. And the top half should fit right on there like a glove. And the bottom half we'll have to take off 3 inches. Make that 6 inches off one end. And it should fit right on there. And we'll screw it, and glue it and screw it, and we should be done. Okay, so we're cutting the top piece of plywood for the tabletop and for the shelf. Long cuts are really hard cuts. It's hard to keep them straight. So what I like to do is I take a 2x4. I measure off, 24 inches off to the middle on each side of the plywood, and then I move it over the thickness of the blade of the skill saw. All right, then I screw it right down, and I did the same on the other side. So we can use the side of this 2x4 to actually guide the skill saw. What we're going to do is we're going to set the depth at its max depth. Which is 2.5 inches, which will be enough to go right through. I'm going to make sure I move it so that it doesn't cut into the frame of the bench itself. But using this 2x4 as a guide for your blade, it'll give you a nice straight cut all the way across. Okay, so the end result of the bench, you're going to have a nice smooth flat top with a very sturdy shelf underneath. All right. Alright, so here you have it. Here's the end product of the bench. All you need to build this bench is one 4x8 sheet of plywood. You want to get plywood that has a smooth side on at least one side. You're going to need 10 2x4x8s, a little bit over a pound of 3-inch screws. You're going to need 8 3.5-inch carriage bolts with nuts and washers. And that's pretty much it for materials. So that's going to cost you less than $100.